Hello everyone, Thersites the Historian here, and today I'd like to go through some channel updates. So there is a graphic on your screen that you can see right now. This will be the direction that this video is taking, so let's just get started and get through this as quickly as possible. Many of you have probably heard a little bit about the monetization crisis that started back in January when YouTube decided to change its standards, and now you have to have 1,000 subs and I believe it's 4,000 hours of views within the last however long in order to be eligible for monetization. Well, I achieved both of those standards by mid-February, and I applied for partnership and AdSense revenue. And then all of the reviews got pushed back until late April. I wasn't really worried at that time, and I figured they'd be able to get through all of them. Then they pushed back the deadline to late June. So now I was starting to get a little pissed, but hey, I figured they'd get through it, probably. And then late June comes and goes, and I wait a few more days. It's July 3rd, and I get this email where my channel is being held for further review to make sure it meets our policies. By that time, I had nearly 200 videos up. I think that that would be a sufficient sample size for just about any determination. At any rate, though, it is said that they would re-review my application in the near future. Here we are about a month and a half later, and I still haven't heard a single word. What's worse is that a whole lot of people who were following the story and presenting it on places like Reddit and on various YouTube channels have given up on the story, and I can't really find any updates. So the moral of the story is YouTube will never monetize my channel, but they will monetize channels that just mirror other videos or don't have original content or in other ways fail to meet the TOS. So, YouTube is really not a very creator-friendly service, and I cannot rely on them in any meaningful way to treat me fairly or with any degree of respect. And that is where you come in. Cue the stop. The only place where I have been able to receive some level of compensation for my work is on Patreon. So if you are able and willing to contribute there, it would be greatly appreciated. I only have one tier of rewards, the Citizens category, and you can donate as much or as little as you want. I believe the minimum is $1, but I might be wrong about that. At any rate, any contribution is appreciated, and basically that just helps me offset some of the expenses that I incur in running this channel. Without YouTube monetizing my channel, I'll never really be able to make money, but this does at least help to offset the expenses of acquiring books, replacing equipment, doing things like that. So, and again, any amount of help you can provide will be appreciated. And now that we've gotten this part out of the way, I can show you what I'm working on right now and some content that will be coming down the pipe in due time. One change that I've made to my channel in the last week or so is that I have changed my Roman Consuls series into a Romans of Renown series, and my reason for doing so was very simply that I wanted to be able to expand the scope to cover a broader spectrum of people, both in terms of time and rank. After all, the two brothers Gracchi were very important figures in Roman history, but neither of them approached the consulship. Originally, the series was just limited to consuls, and the time scope was limited to the Republic. It also occurred to me that there are some interesting figures in the early empire who are worthy of coverage, and that I would like to cover, but there aren't quite enough of them to justify an entire series dedicated to them. So I figured, why not just expand the scope of this one a little bit and roll with it. So that's exactly what I'm doing. So if you're interested, my Romans of Renown series is out there, and you can easily find it on YouTube. So let's talk about my upcoming and ongoing projects, so that way if you do decide to pay or you're on the fence about it, you'll know what you're paying for. So first of all, I want to do a two-part series on Alexander the Great's early career. The first part would cover his childhood and then his service under Philip II. The second video would be from the time that Philip was murdered until Alexander crossed over into Asia and began his conquest of the Persian Empire in earnest. And I think that this period of Alexander's life is, for me, actually the most interesting because he was in a very vulnerable spot. And if you know a lot about Macedonian history, you know that every time Macedon started to do really well, they were only one succession crisis away from complete collapse. But Alexander was able to avert that danger, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't recognize when they really just say that he owes everything he ever was to Philip. So while I actually think Philip was the greater ruler, Alexander does need to get a certain degree of credit, and I hope that this series will help to sort of set the record straight. Another series that will stem directly from this is a series I'm planning to do on Alexander's successors. His successor generals between about 323 when Alexander died and 281 when Lysimachus and Seleucus died. These guys were a very interesting cast of characters. They were highly ambitious, ruthless, and capable. And I just think that those videos would be really good. They would be in the same vein as the Romans of Renown series or of the Byzantine Emperor series. But if anything, this series might actually prove to be better because some of the personalities involved were larger than life and a bit ridiculous, which is always what you like. Another thing I'm working on right now is a Forgotten Battles episode on the Battle of Mycale. This was a battle that took place in 479 on the same day as the Battle of Plataea. So if you're interested in the Persian War period, then that would be something to take a look for. Another thing that's on the channel right now that someone else wrote is a really good video on the Battle of the Philippine Sea. If you look at World War II in the Pacific, most of what gets talked about is Midway, and then it's kind of understood that the American Navy dominated, but a lot of people don't go into detail on what happened. So if you're interested in why the American Navy dominated so much and how battles played out that led to the destruction of the Japanese fleet, I highly recommend going over to Forgotten Battles and checking that out. Another series that I plan on starting, but that I might not get around to for a little while, is I'd like to do one on ancient philosophers. I recently just read a book on Apollonius of Tyana, and I'm interested in starting a series on especially more of the classical period and Hellenistic period philosophers. So obviously Apollonius was way later, but that was sort of what gave me the idea, despite the fact that he was, centuries later. But don't worry about it. Sometimes ideas come from weird places. At any rate, that's something that you can look forward to in the future. One thing that I've been working on for a long time and that I will continue to work on for a long time is that I am trying to do a biographical video of every single Byzantine emperor between Arcadius and Constantine XI. Yesterday, I released a video on Michael III the Drunkard. The next one will be on Basil I the Macedonian. And I'm fairly excited about Basil. He is one of, if not my favorite emperors. And so that'll be fun. Another series I started relatively recently that I am committed to finishing is a series on Bush 43 and why he still sucks, despite the fact that some people think Trump is as bad or worse. People have tended to try to whitewash him in the last few years because they are convinced for some reason that he actually wasn't that bad. Well, I'm here to tell you, yeah, he was. He was that bad. And it occurs to me that it wouldn't be fair to just bash Bush when all the presidents of the neoliberal era, from Reagan until Trump, have been fucking terrible. So I'm going to do similar series on all of them. I probably won't go into as many volumes as I did with the Bush 43 series, but I will definitely make sure that I hit all the highlights and make it clear that all of these presidents and their ideology were fundamentally flawed and against the interest of the public. At any rate, that's all I have for you right now. I will be back in the near future with more content, but until then, give me your money, and I will see you around in the comment sections. Peace out.